Welcome to this week's episode on Fiscal Matters. My name is Sanitsu Zulu, and today I'm joined by Nayo Malungane, who is a researcher at the Financial and Fiscal Commission. Welcome, Nayo.
Thank you, Sana. Thank you for having me.
Right, so Nayo, South Africa's basic education system is facing a stark reality as reflected across a range of outputs, including the fact that as of 2022, a staggering 82% of grade 4 learners are unable to read for meaning. In essence, this means that grade 4 learners lack the fundamental ability to grasp the content of what they read, whether evaluated in their native tongue or in English. This is a worrying statistic, as learning to read for meaning is fundamental to a child's successive years of learning, as it ensures a learner's progression in school and smooth engagement with the school curriculum. However, based on your research, a potential solution or part of the solution to the challenge aforementioned lies in the provision of learner-teacher support materials, such as readers, which are crucial to improving early grade reading and reading for meaning. So, Neo, in this podcast, I would like us to delve into the importance of LTSM, the challenges that characterize the provision of LTSMs, and what can be done to address some of the issues. So, if you're ready, we can move on.
Oh, yes, Sana. So let's move on. We can move to the first question.
So, may you please provide us with a bit of background on what exactly is LTSM and why is it so important that learners have access to LTSMs?
Oh, thank you, Sana, for that question. So, firstly, when we speak of LTSM, we speak of physical items or instructional aids that are used in schools and other educational institutions to facilitate learning and teaching. So in our currently technology infused world, one would refer to LTSM to include all electronic learning and teaching support materials. So in terms of the importance of LTSM, allow me to expand on two key reasons as to why we consider LTSM to be this significant. The first is that in national and international studies by educational economists like Servas van der Berg and Martin Gustafsson have highlighted and confirmed the positive link between educational resources and student performance. Although the provision of LTSM is necessary, however, it is not sufficient to impact on student performance. Therefore, other things come into play, such as the utilization and management of LTSM by students and also teachers. The second key of importance is that basic education forms part of the fundamental rights as stipulated in the Constitution. There are a number of cases dating as far back as 2012 and as recent as 2022, which have established a precedent supporting the provision of LTSM, also stipulating that failure to provide LTSM to schools is in contravention of the basic right of education. So those are the two key reasons as to why LTSM is important.
So, specifically, which government department is responsible for the provision of LTSMs and how much is allocated to the provision of this educational input?
So, with respect to LTSM, the provision of LTSM, the responsibility falls within the National Department of Education. So, I will expand further on this one. So, given our decentralized system of governance, basic education is a concurrent, or one can say a shared function between the National Department of Education and also the Provincial Education Departments, the 9 Provincial Education Departments. So when a function is shared, the National Department assumes the responsibility of developing policies, regulations, and also conducting oversight over sector performance, while the Provincial Education Department assumes the responsibilities of funding, procurement, and delivery of LTSM along with schools within those particular provincial terrain. So in terms of funding, the provision of LTSM is funded by provinces through their equitable share allocations, and that is also done within the parameters of the national norms and standards for school funding. So when delving into patterns, as according to your question when you asked on the allocation, we see that spending on LTSM was around 2.5 billion rand in 2010 and also increased by over 3% of the total education spending in 2020. So overall, we see that the National Department of Education and the Provincial Education Departments have a role to play in the provision of LTSM in one way or the other.
So, as you know, One already, that grade 4 is a crucial grade, considering that for the first 3 grades, a learner is supposed to learn how to read, and then from grade 4 upwards, a learner is supposed to read to learn. So, looking at the statistic of 82% of grade 4 learners who are unable to read, that means that there have been a bit of challenges around the LTSM. So, can you please provide us with some of the challenges that characterize the provision of LTSM in South Africa?
So with regards to challenges, there are a number of challenges confronting the provision of LTSM. However, I'm just going to highlight 2 and expand on those 2. The first is that the LTSM policy has been in draft since 2014. So the policy has stalled and has been in draft form for the past 10 years. Although the Commission welcomes the development of a draft policy, the Commission urges that any stagnation causing delays in the finalization of the policy be resolved, also noting that the absence of an approved policy deprives a shared understanding of the nation's aspiration and priority attached to LTSM, and also that the absence of such a policy minimizes the role that LTSM can play in improving educational outcomes. Also on the issue of the policy, the Commission has identified a gap on the draft LTSM policy, and that is with regards to the absence of aspects of ELTSM. Therefore, it is imperative that the policy be inclusive of all aspects of ELTSM, including the sector's goals with regards to ELTSM before its finalization. The second issue that I'm going to highlight on is that funding for LTSM is not linked to the demand and cost of LTSM in different grades. So usually LTSM is funded through the annually gazetted per learner amount, where the amount is the same for all learners in the same quintile, irrespective of their grades. And also that funding does not consider the differentiated needs of learners in different grades as they progress to higher grades. So here the concern is that when learners progress to higher grades, the number of textbooks required increases, and also as the curriculum expands, this imposes increased costs on learners. However, the funding is not disaggregated according to those issues. So overall, we see that this non-differentiated approach is not in line with what the World Bank considers to be best practice, where a nation would spend around 3 to 5% of their primary education budget and also spend 4 to 6% of their secondary education budget on textbooks. So those are the 2 issues that one can consider to be the main issues with respect to the provision of LTSM.
So as we come to an end of our podcast, what measures can be implemented to address some of the challenges previously mentioned?
So some of the measures that can be put in place, we suggest firstly that the minister ensures that the draft LTSM policy be finalized and approved, as this will also help to convey the nation's broad aspiration in relation to the provision of LTSM and also the priority attached to LTSM. Secondly, the second measure that can be put in place is that the funding for LTSM should be prioritized, especially for learners who are in quintile 1, 2, and 3 schools. Also, that the national funding norms need to be developed to guide spending on LTSM per child and also per phase, whether it be the foundation phase, the intermediate phase, senior phase, or FET. And lastly, funding for LTSM should be differentiated according to different stages of learning. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Naya, for sharing your expertise and insights on LTSM with us today. It is really quite concerning that so many learners in grade 4 cannot read for meaning, considering that reading does form part of the base for the foundation phase, and failure to equip a learner with the skills can therefore cripple their ability to learn and progress throughout their schooling life. So it was quite interesting to hear about the importance of LTSM, some of the challenges, and the huge role it plays in learner progressions in schools, and some of the measures that could be implemented to address some of the mentioned challenges. and I'm sure some of our viewers will find this podcast very much educational as well. Thank you so much for tuning in and following this episode. We hope you have enjoyed it. For more of the work on the Financial and Fiscal Commission, please visit www.ffc.co.za. Thank you.